Good evening and welcome back to Let's Play Along the Edge. When we left off last time, we were getting ready to start Chapter 3. So let's get in here. We'd had some kind of weird nightmare something happening. So, there we go. Into October now. So, wait, we got here in August. We're into October, and we have still not managed to get into the tower. We gotta get on that. Come on, Daphne. I'm bare feet in the grass. In front of me, the black mass of the forest seems to invite me. I feel a hand on my forearm. Oh. Miss, I heard a noise, so I came looking. Thank you, Mrs. Bortine. Something freaky happened, and I was lost in the woods. Mrs. Bortine is standing next to me. She looks worried. What am I doing here? What happened? A bad dream, miss. Just a bad dream. Come, let's get you back to bed. A bad dream brought me out to the woods? It's the forest, right? The Sphinx is calling me. Or the Sphinx calling me. Mrs. Bortine guides me back to my bedroom. I fall again into a dreamless sleep. Can you, lock the doors or something and make sure I don't go wandering out into the woods again? That would be great. Thanks, Mrs. Bortine. When I rise again, the sun is already high. I'm surprised to see Mrs. Bortine is still here, asleep in a chair on the other side of the room. Oh, she watched us all night. That's sweet. She's sleeping so peacefully. I feel almost guilty to wake her up. Mrs. Bortine? Oh, hello, Miss Daphne. I'm sorry, I must have fallen asleep. Fallen asleep? But what are you doing here? She's watching you, silly. Oh, don't you remember? You gave us quite a fright yesterday night. My husband heard you go out. He heard some noise and went to check what it was. When he saw you, he woke me up, so I brought you back to bed. We're used to it anyway. It happened to Madam, your grandmother, from time to time. Once or twice a month, we used to find her wandering in the garden, and we had to put her back to bed. Must be the moon. That's kind of an odd family trait, but thank goodness she was here to help us. The moon? Sure, she used to do this on full moons. You know what they say, right? With the full moon. Alright. I would agree that there is some kind of weirdness with the full moon. I waitressed for 5 years, and I will say, you get stranger people coming out on the full moon. People who aren't your normal customers. There's something about the full moon just brings out some oddness in some people. So, and I know I've been going on about science, and that doesn't feel very scientific, but maybe a study needs to be done maybe there's connection between some people and behavior, but you really do when you've got the full moon. You get more interesting nights than when you don't. So, yeah, I am going to agree with her, even though it sounds like just superstition. My experience has been that, yeah, the moon it's got some kind of effect. Yes, you must be right. Oh well, the full moon, it always brings something with it. Must beware of the full moon dreams. I did have a strange dream, and I want to investigate it, but more importantly, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for taking care of me, but you must be eager to go home. Oh, don't you worry about me. I was a bit worried about you. I wouldn't have slept much anyway. Well, thank you very, very much for that. I was more at ease staying with you, but I must admit, I'd enjoy a quick nap in my own bed now. And anyway, Gerard must be waiting for me to prepare his snack. Yes, of course, by all means. I'll manage on my own. In that case, have a good day, miss, and if you need anything... Well, thank you. We're really lucky we have her. Very kind, her and her husband. Mrs. Bortine leaves the room and leaves me alone with my questions. I'm telling myself it might be time to call Dr. Durant. No, don't do it yet. Don't. He told me I could call him if I felt the need, and I'm afraid that time has come. I'm not so sure he can do anything for me, but it's worth a try. I take the phone and dial his number. We don't get a choice. Bummer. Hello? Dr. Durant? Daphne Delator speaking. Oh, hello, Daphne. Why are you calling? You told me I could call. True, but you've left me without news since August, and now you're calling me on a Sunday morning. I guess it must be important. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. I can call you back tomorrow if you prefer. No, you were right to call me. That's precisely why I gave you this number. and I'll be more tuned in than tomorrow between two patients. I quickly go through everything that happened since I arrived. I finish with this recurring dream and what happened last night. Listen, Daphne, I understand why you've called me, but there's no cause for alarm. There's no proven treatment for somnambulism, and everything points to an isolated crisis, certainly due to your new environment. But you do have an explanation for this dream, don't you? Well, for this, we can look into psychoanalysis. Really, I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of import hidden in dreams. It's just a mishmash of stuff that your brain comes up with. So, we could just shrug it off, Daphne. Tell me, how would you interpret it? Probably just that I'm a premonitory dream. How would you know what a premonitory dream feels like? I'm just disturbed by all these changes. I agree with you. It must be all the changes I went through recently, and all I've discovered about my family. It must have affected me more than I thought. Well, it is a really big change. And in the wake of a big trauma that you went through with your boyfriend, you know? See, understanding the cause of the problem means you're already on the path to resolving it. You were very brave to leave like you did. Take care of yourself. Take the time to get your bearings, and everything will be all right. You'll see. Thank you. I appreciate the support he's giving us now. Thank you, Doctor. You told me your ex-partner paid you a visit. How do you see things on this matter? I'm not sure. Maybe I should give him a chance. In different circumstances, it could be very intrusive, but given what we know about their history now, I'm not really feeling that way anymore. I mean, it was a bit, but I don't know. Maybe they just kind of drifted apart and it could be worth it to try and patch things up. So I'm still on the fence. I'm not sure. Sometimes I ask myself if I wasn't too hard on him. On the other hand, I don't know what could really make it work between us. Well, I don't know if she's feeling that way. If she's feeling like it's really done, then I think you're right, first, to question yourself, and second, to take the time you need to think it through. Whatever you decide together, you should make sure you're not making the same mistakes again. You're probably right. Well, what exactly were the mistakes that we made in the first place? Because it sounded like we just kind of drifted. So you've mentioned a young man called something like Stanislas, is that right? I don't have much to say about him. He's a jerk. He was the Malterre, right? That's right, but I don't see what he has to do with my relationship with Frank. Don't work yourself up. I'm just surprised you took the time to tell me every detail of your meeting with this man, since you only saw him for a couple of minutes. Well, but he was repellent. It made an impression. I can see where you're going, but I'm afraid you're on the wrong track. Me and this Malterre? No, it hasn't even crossed my mind. I'm not necessarily talking about a romantic relationship, but I'm trying to point out possible social issues. You left in order to start anew, didn't you? Yeah, so what are you getting at? One last thing before we go back to our Sunday activities. Yes? How do you feel about your new job? Love it. She specifically said that she really enjoyed teaching, so I know I was unsure when I left, but believe it or not, I just love this new job. It was perfectly normal to be anxious in your situation. I was sure you would enjoy it. You were right. Teaching is really fulfilling. It's a great satisfaction to enable these young brains to get a grip on complex notions. Glad to hear that. Hang on to this positive element. It will help you go through the tests life is throwing at you. All right, Daphne. I'm sorry, but I have to hang up. I'm glad to hear that you're more at ease. And to repeat myself, there's nothing to worry about. It's more than normal to need time to get your bearings. I trust you, of course, but I'm not completely sure it will work out. It's gonna be fine, Daphne. Come on, Daphne. You really have no reason to let yourself be overwhelmed by these details. As for your sleepwalking episode, be watchful, but don't be alarmed. I mean, I guess for some people it does. I've never been a sleepwalker, but some people do. Some people do. So, it would freak me out if I woke up and I was somewhere other than where I went to sleep, but that's just because I've never sleepwalked. You've told me about the wardens living nearby. Perhaps you could ask them to be on their guard in case it happens again. It seems like an imposition, but I don't know, they gave the impression that they'd gladly take it on. I mean, Mrs. Bortine was saying they're really used to it, so probably not a bad idea. Feel free to call me again if you ever feel the need, and if needed, I'll refer you to a colleague in your area. Oh, thank you. Okay. Oh, and unless it's a case of emergency, try to check the day of the week before throwing yourself on the phone next time. Yes, sure, doctor. I'll try my best to have my next somnambulism crisis on a weeknight. Yeah, I mean, come on, buddy. We were a little out of... So we're not trying to interrupt your Sunday. Sorry. All right, no need to linger on this. Have an excellent Sunday. Thanks, you too. Well, that was mostly a good conversation with him. I think he did harp a little on the Sunday thing, but I don't know. Maybe it would have been more polite to take note of that still. But I don't know, the way he said it, I don't hear anything from you for 2 months, and then you call me on a Sunday. Like, you're my therapist, dude. I mean, I'm assuming that we pay him, so come on. Don't give me some kind of guilt trip. As I slowly recover from my night, slumped on the sofa with a good book and a cup of tea, I hear someone knocking. I'm surprised to find Frank smiling on the other side of the threshold, holding a bouquet of flowers. Well, I mean, it makes sense. Who else is going to be visiting us? Carnations, your favorite. Aw, thanks. When I saw them at the market, I thought about you right away. He hands me the bouquet as he enters the hall. Would you offer me a coffee? That's not the way that... It's not polite, Frank. Would you care to offer me something? Like, come on, man. I don't mind being civil, but come on now. I mean, we are enjoying our book, but it's not the end of the world. Sure. So, do you like it here at the village? He follows me to the kitchen. I put the flowers in a vase and turn to the espresso maker. Well, I'm doing all right. Found a couple of jobs, including big roof repairs. What's really pleasant around here is that people are so easy to work with. They don't ask you to justify yourself at each step, and they don't entertain wacky notions about how I should do my work. What about you? How are you doing? You know, I'm doing quite well, Frank. We chit-chat for a while. In passing, I tell him about my eventful night. I listen to him with one ear while preparing my classes for the week. 2 coffees and an hour later, Frank finally decides to get into the thick of it. You told me about this tower without a door, remember? I'm a bit intrigued by all this. Do you mind if I have a look? Hey, let me come with, and you're on. Make yourself at home. I'm as intrigued as you are. I'm wondering what might be inside. In this case, I'm going to investigate, and I'll give you my report. Go with him, come on. Maybe 2 people looking together will find it. Do you want to look for an old pipe? It would complete your panoply, don't you think, Mr. Sherlock Holmes? Stop laughing at me. I'm sure I can resolve this mystery of the Yellow Room. Then Frank goes to do his stuff, which allows me to get back to my thriller and my plaid. He reappears late in the afternoon, his coat covered with dust and his shoes equally covered with mud. Well, any luck? So, from the look on your face, I'm quite sure you're not going to say, "Elementary, my dear Watson." Yeah, he's looking like he didn't manage to find the door either. Nope, I must admit my defeat. Then what are your conclusions? That there must be an entry somewhere, but I couldn't find it. Well, I mean, you're a carpenter, right? Do you know a safe way to, bust into the wall? I tried to get in by the wall with the ladder, but the arrow slits are too narrow and too deep. I can't make anything out, even less get through, unless I blow up parts of the wall. Well, if it comes down to it. Mrs. Bortine found me doing my acrobatic act, so I asked her a couple of questions. Seems like she has no idea what's inside either. Yeah, she said it's been closed off since before she was here. Told you. When I entertained the idea to get in by the roof, she dissuaded me vehemently. Looks like the roof hides, in fact, an older stone ceiling with no way in either. And when I try to wrap my mind around the kind of scaffolding I would need to get up there, I'd rather take her word for it. Well, then how are we going to get in? We've got to get in. Well, at least you've tried. Sure, well, I've got to go. Big day tomorrow. Thanks for the coffee. You're welcome. Good evening. See ya. That was a decent chat. I don't dream of anything this night. Monday is particularly tiresome. I don't know if it's the students who are in cahoots to make me suffer, or if it's just that I haven't completely recovered from my weekend. Mondays are always awful, that's all that it is, Daphne. They're hard on everyone. To top it off, as I get to the school gates, I catch a glimpse of Mrs. Leviquet waiting for her son and looking at me menacingly. She's ridiculous, Daphne. She thinks you're a witch. You can't let that get to you. Quite sure she's about to jump on the occasion to antagonize me. After my long day, I must admit it's tempting to try to dodge her, even if it's not very professional. As I'm considering my options, I notice she's already walking resolutely towards me. What should I do? Let her come. We'll have it out. I prepare myself to have a hard time when I feel a hand on my forearm. Ah, Miss Delatour, I'm in luck. I just wanted to talk to you about something. What could you possibly want to talk to me about? It's Stanislas Malterre, holding a young child by the hand. Huh? Mrs. Leviquet immediately turns on her heels and goes back outside the gates. Well, I mean, that's one problem solved. She's probably, it's gonna probably make her think even worse of us, because she thinks the Malterres are witches too, but whatever. She can think what she wants. Pierre-Yves Malterre. Uncle Stan, who is this lady? Well, Pierre, the pretty lady. He didn't say pretty lady, he just said lady. Laying it on thick, aren't you, Stanislas? The pretty lady is Daphne Delatour. She lives at the castle. At the castle of the witch? You're not a witch, Mrs. Daphne, are you? No, I'm not a witch. Forgive him. As you can see, he's not afraid to speak his mind. He adds, winking at me. He must take a little bit after his uncle. Whatever, buddy. I crouch to put myself at the child's height. Maybe I'm a nice witch. No, witches don't exist. Don't worry, young man. Witches don't exist. The old lady of the castle, she was a witch, though. No, my grandma was not a witch. Actually, she probably was, given the context of the story. But I'm assuming, if I were Daphne, we would have no reason to think that witches are a real thing, so. And especially with her devotion to science, no, I don't think she'd be buying into that kind of thing. You know, Pierre, the old lady of the castle, she was Miss Delatour's grandmother. Her grandmother? Yes, and she went to live in the clouds recently. Daphne must be sad you're saying this about her. Well, that's actually rather tactful of you, thank you. Sorry, Miss Daphne. If your granny lives in the clouds, I'm sure Daddy knows her. Aww. Poor fella. Amused by my discomfort, Stanislas adds, for me. I hope Daddy doesn't know her too well. It would be a little bit embarrassing. What? I get back up, and I notice Stanislas is putting out his hand. What do you want? I don't believe we've been formally introduced. Stanislas Malterre, but my friends call me Stan. Daphne Delatour, but it seems you already know it. Of course. I'm sure you've noticed how fast the news spreads around here, Daphne. Can I call you Daphne? Let's keep it professional. You can call me Miss Delatour. When my father discovered something was going on at the castle, he had to know what was happening. Please excuse him. The poor man is obsessed by the Delatours. Why? But don't let this put you off. The rest of the family is not all cut from the same cloth. We'll have to take a coffee together one of these days to get to know each other. I'm sure we have a lot in common. No, I'm still resentful of you for cutting in front of me in the bread line. Before I have a chance to answer, he adds, By the way, you must have received your invitation for the cocktail, haven't you? What are you talking about? The cocktail? I hope you're coming. My father forces me to attend, but it's atrociously stuffy. That doesn't really make me want to come. Uncle Stan, can I have my afternoon snack? Yes, Pierre, in a minute. So, Junior wants his 4 o'clock snack. Say goodbye to Daphne, Pierre. My name is Pierre-Yves, not Junior. The child takes my hand. Are you coming, Auntie Daphne? Coming where? Didn't take him long to succumb to your charms. Come on, buddy. You are laying it on thick. Auntie Daphne has things to do. She can't come with us this time. Let's go home. You're driving. For real? No. Of course not. Daphne, pleased to meet you. See you soon? In an instant, Stan and Junior disappear in a sports car, and I remain speechless on the sidewalk, trying to sort out what just happened. Now, what happened is he's decided that maybe he has an interest, and so he's flirting awfully hot and heavy here. Or at least he's laying on the I won't say charm. He's laying on the smarm is what it's coming down to. When I get back home, I discover I have mail. Oh, and so that'll be the invitation to the cocktail. I really like this, the foot closing the door. I do that all the time. It's a nice square envelope that contains an invitation to a cocktail. I guess that's what Stanislas was talking about. Looks like I've been invited to the reopening of the City Hall's gardens that just went through renovations. I bet all the local upper crust will attend, so it will be an excellent excuse to learn more about the Malterres. I could ask Frank to come with me, but I know this kind of social event isn't really his cup of tea. On the other hand, going alone leaves us open to more advances from Stan, and I'm not really interested in that. So we will ask Frank to come. We could just skip it, but, I mean, she makes a good point. It is a good opportunity to learn more about the Malterres, which I really want to do now that I know that Grandpa Malterre is obsessed with the Delator. Like, why is he obsessed? What's he so concerned about? So, yeah, I definitely want to go. I think going alone is just going to ask for a bunch of aggravation from Stan, so we'll ask Frank. I take my phone and ask Frank to come with me. When Frank picks up, he's in a slaughtering mood. I feel he's more than reticent, but I know which ropes to pull to persuade him to come. I don't know, I feel a little hesitant about this. If she's not sure that they can really make a go of anything, then it seems awfully manipulative to persuade him to coming to this thing that he doesn't really want to come to. As expected, he ends up agreeing. The D-Day comes quickly. As I get ready for the evening, I'm confronted by an existential dilemma. What? Aha! I can deduce from the invitation card that proper attire is required, so I don't see myself hanging there in a denim and a twin set. I don't own anything remotely appropriate for this kind of occasion, but after raiding the wardrobe of my mother's room, I find 2 dresses that might somewhat do the job. I just can't choose. The Elsa from Frozen dress or classic little black dress? On one hand, there's this long dress, Empire style. I guess it's more the taste and criteria of elegance of my grandmother. To be honest, I don't see my mother wearing this spontaneously. It's pastel blue, usually the kind of color that agrees with my complexion. The other option is a black strapless dress, short and tight-fitting. I can imagine my mother wearing this. It's really the kind of garment she must have worn when getting out. Contrary to the blue one, it leaves very little to the imagination between the bare shoulders and the shortness of the skirt. Which one should I choose? I mean, well, we are in October here, so it could be very cold in the short strapless one. And I personally hate strapless dresses. I hate strapless dresses. I need something with a strap. A strapless dress is just going to slide down, so you're going to be hitching it up all night. No. We're going to wear something with sleeves. I might be a little overdressed, but I think this option is the most reasonable. Possibly overdressed, but whatever. What do we care? Now that I've dealt with the dress, I just have to do something with my hair. I gather it in a quick bun, a bit of eyeliner, some lipstick, and I'm ready to go. I just have time to finish getting ready before I hear the hoarse horn of the van outside. I get inside, and after a quick ride, we're there. The gardens of the City Hall are magnificent, with their trees donned in the flaming colors of fall. There's already a lot of people, hanging around in small groups, drinking glasses of wine leisurely. I'm glad I managed to persuade Frank to come with me. I would certainly have clashed with the style of the gathering if I had come alone. The guests are all dressed up to the nines, and the luxury of the event looks more like a big wedding than a town gathering in a small countryside village. Well, sounds like our dress was the right choice then. The Malterres clearly didn't balk at the expenses. Frank has barely enough time to get us a cup of champagne before I'm approached by a large man in a black suit. He's closely followed by a tall and haughty blonde woman. I can reasonably deduce she's his wife. Is this the elder Malterre? Aha! Good evening, miss. You must be the new owner of the castle. I'm glad you came to our little party. I must confess, I was eager to learn a bit more about the new owner of the castle. So what's your fascination with my family, buddy? I see you didn't come alone. Good evening, sir. Yves Malterre. Frank Duval, pleased to meet you. Like the singer. Never mind, forget I said anything. Pleased to meet you. Let me introduce you to my wife, Clotilde Malterre. Good evening, miss. Daphne, pleased to meet you. Her icy handshake contrasts sharply with the friendliness of her husband. I can read a mix of contempt and distaste in her eyes. Weird. No, I think it's probably going to be something to do with who your father really is, Daphne. I have a feeling your father is actually going to be one of these Malters. Looks like my daughter, Selene, has been ambushed by our elder, Mr. Morey. He points towards a pretty young blonde woman on the other side of the path. She's leaned toward an old man in a wheelchair who has caught her by her wrist and seems determined not to let her go for as long as decency will allow. About my son, I've heard you've already met him. What's that hesitation there? Yes, I did. Since we're done with introductions, allow me to get straight to the point. I must admit, my invitation wasn't totally innocent. All right, get to the point. I'm interested. As you're about to see for yourself later, during the opening ceremony, we're very concerned about preservation of our cultural heritage here in the village. Okay? And as you may have heard, our relations with your grandmother were, how could I put it, tense? All right, I hadn't heard that, but why? Yeah, we'll let him go on. And that's what I heard around, indeed. I guess the maintenance costs for the castle are nothing to sneeze at. If you agreed to open it to visitors at least a couple of days during the year, the city hall might generously help you pay some of the expenses. My initial inclination was, no, why would I let people into my home? But, I don't know, this is something to think about. I'm thinking of the show Downton Abbey, and I saw a special about it, the place where it's filmed, and it's one of those beautiful old manor houses where it's filmed. It really is. And part of the reason they allowed it to be filmed there is because, like, they were talking to the guy who owns it now, and he really wants to preserve this thing and keep it looking nice, but it's a ton of expense. It costs a lot. It's a big old house. It has work that needs to be done on it. It's really expensive. So, I mean, something along what this guy's proposing makes a lot of sense. You need some kind of source of income. You need some kind of way to, you really don't want to see the thing fall into ruin just because you can't afford the upkeep, right? So what does it hurt things to let people in? I mean, he's only asking for a couple of days during the year. So people get to go and see a castle, which is awesome. I would love to go and see a castle. One of the things that makes me saddest about living where I live now, like in America, we don't really have castles. I want an awesome castle, like you can find, like, oh, what's that one, the Disney-looking castle in Germany? Like, there are awesome castles out there in the world, but not really awesome castles generally in the U.S. Bums me out. So, yeah, I mean, if I owned a castle, maybe it would be a cool thing to share with other people the experience of being able to look at it, and at the same time, if it helps you get the money you need to keep the thing, to preserve it, that'd be great. It's a sad thing when they can't be preserved. That was another thing that I forget where it was. It was something I read about, like, I think it's in Italy, some island in Italy or something. There's this, like, magnificent old, like, castle village, but it's completely deserted because it's not safe. It's very structurally unsound at this point, and the cost to try and fix it is just prohibitive. I mean, what a sad thing to lose something like that. So, I mean, really, I think I'm on board with his plan. It makes a lot of sense. Preserves a beautiful piece of the town's history, helps me out with the cost of doing that, and it's not really a big sacrifice to let people in a couple days a year. Yeah. So, yeah, I could see doing that. Your offer is indeed quite interesting. It is, isn't it? I'm sure it's a win-win situation. I mean, it pretty much is. The tower especially is an architectural marvel. You want to get in the tower, that's what this is about. A building so old and so well conserved, it's extremely rare, you know. Yeah, but no, he wants to get into the tower. I do too, but I don't know, why does he want to get in there? Does he have an idea of what it contains? Maybe he does. It would be a shame to refuse the access to the public, and it would be even more tragic to see it fall in disrepair for lack of maintenance. Okay, well, nobody can get in the tower, it's blocked off, buddy. It's not the kind of decision one can take lightly. I'll have to think about it. Anyway, let me assure you that I come with the best intentions, and I hope with all my heart that your moving here will be under the sign of a new understanding between our families. I think it's probably a good proposal, even if he is doing it just because he wants to get into the tower, because it will benefit us. We just have to outmaneuver him where the tower is concerned and make sure we get into it first. So, although I am curious about the tower, what happened between our families? Can you tell me what happened, exactly, between the Malterres and the Delatours? We're in a can of worms here at the village, and the smallest trifle can take enormous proportions. My grandfather had a grudge against the Delatours since I was born, and I'm not sure even he could have told you the origins of this old quarrel. Really? Okay, it's interesting to accuse him of lying, and I think that could be a very fascinating conversation option. But what proof do we really have that he's lying? All right, we can make talk about getting along. You're right, it doesn't matter anymore. We'd better forge ahead. It does matter, but I don't think we're going to get the truth out of him, and I don't think we need to necessarily be openly hostile with him. We'll just do some research on our own, find the story another way. That's exactly my opinion. Listen, I would be delighted to talk longer, but unfortunately, duty calls. Have a nice evening. You too. Yves Malterre disappears into the crowd. Well, I mean, we've learned some things. He definitely has an interest in the tower. And we've got to beat him to it. But his it's a pretty good idea to open the place up to the public. Now that I know who the other members of the family are, I'll be able to question them directly. Selene is still struggling with the old man, and Clotilde, her mother, seems to have taken advantage of her husband's departure to get to the buffet. Could also ask Frank what he thinks of all this. What should I do? While it would be polite to talk to Frank, I don't want to talk to the mom because she clearly didn't like us. Let's go rescue Selene. Seeing me approach, Selene seizes her chance and finally manages to extricate herself from the claws of Mr. Morey. There, at least we've helped her out a little bit. I can see for an instant a mix of gratitude and relief in her eyes. Then she comes towards me with a large smile. See, we've done something that helps her out. This is good. We've got her feeling friendly towards us from the start. You must be Daphne Delatour. I'm Selene Malterre, Stanislas' older sister. Pleased to meet you. All the pleasure is mine. Was looking forward to meeting you. Stan told me you were charming. Oh, he's been talking about me. Do we assume it's her son? Yeah. Yes, indeed, he was picking up your son at the end of the school day. Ah, then you met my kid. I hope he behaved himself around you. Yeah, he seemed fine. I know he's a handful since his dad passed away. Well, it's not easy every day. I'm curious what happened, but it's awfully rude to ask someone, to just go up to a widow, oh, how did your husband die? That's awful. I'm sorry to hear that. Thank you, that's nice of you to say this. It's been hard, but I'm getting better, one day at a time. And Stan was fantastic. He held me afloat during the hard times after the accident. He took good care of his little nephew. Okay, and see, we learned a little bit anyhow, some sort of accident. And I must confess, he told me a lot about you. How? He barely knows me. Really? He told you about me? He did, and I apologize in advance for his behavior. I know how he can be around women. He might resent me telling you this, but I think he's got quite a crush on you. Well, too bad for him. Is she really telling me this with Frank, right there? Yeah, he's barking up the wrong tree. I'm afraid he's barking up the wrong tree. I'm sorry, but Stanislas is really not my kind. Okay then, I get it. Too bad, but it was worth a try, wasn't it? Oh, and sorry to put you on the spot. It's a big sister thing. I can't refrain myself. He never got lucky in love, and I don't know why, but I felt like it could have worked out with you. He's probably never got lucky in love because he's the kind of guy who cuts in front of people in the bakery line. That's probably a big chunk of it. She bursts out laughing. But enough talking about my brother. Tell me more about yourself. What are you doing for a living? Do you like it here in the village? We talked for a good 20 minutes. Selene seems nice and outgoing, but I have a hard time deciding if it's just not just a facade. And I seem to lose her attention several times, until, without notice, she leaves me hanging there to engulf herself inside the city hall. What should I do next? Next, we're going to talk to Frank. So, Frank, how's it going? Frank is taking cover next to the buffet. He seems bored to death. Oh, so he wasn't next to us when we had the card. Okay, that makes it less awkward. I'm a bit remorseful at the idea of inflicting this ordeal on him, as I know perfectly well he hates this kind of vacation. But hey, he can get some good food out of it, right? I can see the relief on his face as I walk to him. I assumed that he was escorting us around. Sorry about that, Frank. You okay? Do you think you're going to survive this? Oh, survive? Yeah, I guess so. We're only at 6 out of 10 on the scale of the Merlot's wedding. 6 out of 10? It's not that bad. Well, we haven't crossed the threshold of pain yet, but if you could shorten my suffering, I'll be grateful. I don't want to leave quite yet, though, Frank. So is that it? Are we leaving? Not quite yet. Sorry, I don't want to say... if it was not yet, but you could go if you want to, I would like that option. But not yet, but you should go sounds like I'm just trying to get him out of here. And I appreciate him being here for us, so not quite yet, sorry. Sorry, but I'm not yet ready to go. If you really want to, you can. You don't have to hang around for my sake, but... Okay. Alright, let's go talk to her. I think she's probably going to say something mean. Clotilde Malterre is chatting with a group of people smartly dressed, a vague smile on her lips. Her face is very hard to read. Is she attending this function reluctantly, or is her distant and haughty attitude really revealing of her personality? Seeing me approaching, she apologizes to her guest and takes me aside. Mrs. Malterre? Listen, girl, I'm talking with Dr. Zakarian and his wife. If you haven't been raised well enough to understand common decency, I hope you'll excuse my being straightforward, but I'm afraid I have neither the time nor the urge to help you correct your lackings. I was just going to make pleasant conversation, but okay. So if you don't mind, I'll go back to my guests, and you, I don't know, enjoy the buffet, maybe? I wish you an excellent evening. No, you don't. Now, I know I bothered getting worked up in the bakery line, but here I feel like not even worth it. Obviously, this woman is dead set on not liking us. Getting worked up is just going to reaffirm to her that we're badly behaved and rude. Whatever. You can go. I stay dumbstruck as Clotilde turns away and goes back to her conversation. I didn't imagine she would be so hostile towards me. Yeah, it's definitely got something to do with who our father is. What other reason would she have to be upset? So what, we're some born out of wedlock something and she's the type to be scandalized by that? That's what I'm having a feeling is happening here. I realize there's a kind of sway in the crowd. Huh? The guests are gathering around a tribune. I guess the unveiling ceremony is about to begin. Someone is walking against the current, splitting the crowd in my direction. Oh, run back towards Frank. I don't want to talk to... This is Stan, isn't it? Hi, Stan. Daphne? You are drunk, aren't you? Look at that blush on him. It's Stanislas. He's carrying a glass of wine. He seems a bit drunk. You came. Nice. Yeah, I came with Frank. Are you alright? Something tells me you had too much to drink, haven't you? Too much? No, just the minimal medication to suffer through my old man's speech. Follow me, your sister must be around here somewhere. No, it's not your duty to take care of him. Yeah, we're stuck for it now. I turned my back to him, looking for Selene, who should know what to do with her brother in this kind of situation. I barely have time to turn my eyes, then Stan twirls me around, holding me against him. Ugh, awkward. I look into his eyes, and I understand perfectly well what is about to happen. We're about to push him really hard away from us and let him take care of himself. I'm trying to hold him back, but his lips end up on mine. What a jerk. Luckily, I'm saved by a rasping voice that stops Stanislas in his tracks. Ah, isn't corrupting our youth enough for you? I'm oddly grateful to see you, Beatrice. Beatrice Levique is standing next to us and looks at me with a look of anger and reprobation. Who is the drunk person here, Beatrice? He grabbed me and swirled me around. This has nothing to do with me. We're going to have it out with her. Ah, no way. You're not going to get on to me, too. That's it. Yell at me. Show everyone your true colors. Listen, you are dead set on hating me already, so whatever. I know, I said the same thing with Clotilde. I felt like with her, like, she's got a cold contempt for us. She's going to be contemptuous regardless. This woman is just utterly ridiculous, and I really don't care. I kind of want to get her worked up. It's just a different, I don't know. Somehow the situation is different to me. I feel like Clotilde is obviously mad at us for probably something to do. I mean, when she talked about how we were raised, that was a shot against our mother. So it's definitely something to do with something that happened in the past that I don't know anything about. This woman is mad at us because she thinks we're a witch. It's absurd. It's absurd. I have no problem getting into fights with absurd people just to put them in a tizzy. That's fine. Even if they are oblivious, I know exactly what you are, vile temptress. Oh my goodness. I won't let you get away with it. Come, Mr. Malterre. Don't let this sorceress seduce you. Take him away, please. I don't want him anywhere near me. Enough already. I'm done with you insulting me. I warn you. Don't, Daphne, you can't say wrong, bad word choice. I warn you, she thinks you're going to try to curse her or something. Beatrice doesn't wait for me to finish my sentence before throwing the contents of her glass of red wine at my face. She just stained our beautiful dress. That's for you, dirty. Surprised by the aggression, I step backward and fall over. I feel a sharp pain in my left hand. My cheeks get flushed. I have like a ball of heat radiating inside my chest. Dirty what? Dirty witch. Is that what you wanted to say? Stanislas helps me get up. Where's Frank in all this? I feel something warm and moist dripping along my finger. I realize I must have cut my hand in the fall. See, I'm injured. Are you happy? Since you're so sure that I'm a dirty witch, then I curse you. Daphne, don't do this. You're going to pay for what you did to me tonight. Man, I should have picked the calm down option. Oh, man. Daphne, this is not the way to convince people that you aren't a witch. Yeah, she's being ridiculous and she's clinging on to this, but the rest of the village would be fine. But if you play into it like this, it's just going to cause you trouble. Is that what you were waiting for? Are you satisfied? If I'm a spellcaster, as you say, why not put my powers to good use? Daphne, your hand. Blood has been drawn. Careful what you're about to... because you're a witch and you know what it means, aren't you? I have the perverse satisfaction to see Mrs. Lefakay turning white as a sheet. Yeah, and what did she think? If I was a witch, then, like, maybe I'm not the best person to antagonize if you really do think I have powers. Like, come on, lady. I hold her gaze until she gives up and turns on her heels. Stan puts his hand on my shoulder and shakes me gently. Daphne? Daphne, do you realize what... I cut him off and lash out. Oh, that's enough now. Leave me alone. Yeah, you're the one who came up and kissed me out of nowhere and I didn't want it and started this whole nonsense. I stride into the bathroom to wash my wound, mop up the wine from my face, and, most of all, try to calm down. Now, that's something I'm in the moment, like when I was just saying that she shouldn't have cursed him. I do have to remember, I mean, no one has ever thrown a glass of wine on me. I can't imagine how I would feel if that happened. That is the kind of move that maybe would make you want to mess around with someone who believes you can curse them into thinking you've cursed them, because, yeah. A couple of yards away, I see Frank, dumbstruck, the keys of the vans in his hand. Poor Frank. Man, when he said, "Can we go now?" we should have just gone. He must have witnessed everything, but he knows me well enough not to try to prevent me from leaving. In the distance, on the tribune, Yves Malterre has taken the microphone and is about to speak. My dear friends, neighbors, and fellow citizens. We got together to celebrate the start of the fall season. As you all know, by tradition, this time of the year is dedicated to reflection and remembrance. It's a time when we think about our lost relatives who are waiting for us on the other side. But it's also the time of the offering, when we pray to the invisible entities for a mild winter. We do? That's why our craftsmen have worked hard during the summer for this celebration, so that we would be ready in time to show you the fruit of our efforts. As we're leaving summer behind to enter winter, this time of offering, as I said, seems like the appropriate time to renew our pact with our protectors. What is this guy talking about? Those invisible forces who allowed our traditions to survive century after century, not to disappear because of invasions or external influences, and who bring us luck, happiness, and prosperity every year. This village is way more superstitious than I gave it any kind of credit for. So I'm proud to present you a physical representation of our pact. This statue, symbol of our community, that has been deteriorated by the years and the weather, and has now been made anew by the masterful hand of our local craftsmen. Ladies and gentlemen, let me present you the Sphinx. Oh! And that's what was calling us. There's something, I don't know. He says luck and stuff that it brings, but that dream we had was awfully ominous. Well, that was quite a dramatic October we had. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and wind the episode down here. Please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this. Come on back in next time. We'll start Chapter 4.